Hello YouTube, my name is Alan Samsel and this is my channel, Alan's Cloud. Today's topic is about disaster recovery for Plex. I had a NAS machine recently. One of my oldest hard drives died, and so I lost at least a terabyte worth of television shows that I had backed up on that particular drive. And this video is going to be about how to get Plex to give you a list of all of those shows that it's missing. There's a way to do it. It's kind of hidden. So if that sounds interesting, stick around. This video is for you. So Plex, that's a great program. I've been running it for several years now. It's one of the best ones out there. I know there are other alternatives and people have their favorites, but Plex is mine. I have it running inside of a virtual machine on Proxmox, inside of a Windows 10 virtual machine, just because the installers and everything is easier. At first I ran it in Ubuntu server, and I'll admit I just dabble with Linux, and Windows just turned out to be easier. Every time I seem to do updates on the Ubuntu side, it would kill my installation or break something here and there. So Windows just ended up being a heck of a lot easier in the long run to use. So the NAS machines that I have for file storage, interface over the network, of course, that's what they're there for. And the oldest drive that I had, a terabyte drive, recently died. Started clicking, you know the noise if you ever had that happen. It's one of those things that just happens if you hang on to hard drives for long enough and you don't back them up. I don't use RAID or anything like that. I like to have all of the space that I've paid for, essentially. But this is the result. When something like this happens, I have to go hunt down everything that I had on there before, and part of it is when the drive is so dead that I couldn't recover anything from it. You have to be able to figure out what was on that drive, and I didn't have that written down or indexed anywhere before. So I knew that Plex essentially runs behind the scenes a database, and it hangs on to information by default because it knows that a lot of the users out there use essentially USB drives or removable drives that may not be there every time you fire up Plex. So it's indexed it before, it knows where it used to be, but it doesn't delete it because you may end up plugging that drive in again. So that has some goods and bads to it. So in this situation, I thought a lot of my favorite programs were still on that drive, and turns out they really weren't. And so I started digging into Google to try to find a way to output from the database that's under the hood a listing of all of the TV shows that were associated with that particular drive. And I ran across a couple of outdated programs out there, so that would take that database and kind of spit it out as an Excel file, but they were truncated, no longer used, a little bit dated. And then what I did, I already had WebTools plugin installed for Plex. It's the unsupported app store is a very handy feature if you haven't used that in the past. I highly recommend it. It's not that hard to install and get running. Well, I went in there to take a look, and it turns out there's a feature that was exactly what I was looking for. So let me basically walk you through a little bit of the WebTools piece, and then I'll show you the interface for the WebTools and the particular buttons that I found for the tools that I needed to output the text file, essentially, or be able to save it as a text file of a listing of everything that was on the drive. So let's see here. So here is good old Google. So if you Google Plex WebTools, that first one that shows up right there is the actual Plex forums, and there's a link inside there that'll actually take you to this GitHub, essentially. There's a WebTools bundle. If you click on this second link here for GitHub, it'll take you to Git. Then if you scroll down, there's the bottom link says to download the WebTools installer for AccuStore, QNAP, Synology, or Windows. Go here. So when I did this is what I did. I came here to this WebTools installer, and I grabbed the Windows installer and followed the basic instructions in the how-to. It's not that hard. And what happens is here inside of Plex, under your under your home button on the left hand side, there'll be a little button or option to select for plugins. So and Plex has several plugins that are really useful. CNN, CBS, all these ones that you see here are the normal ones that come with it. But you can also, down here in this corner is what you've installed, basically following those previous instructions, is WebTools. And when you click on it, it gives you these two links. The first one is regular HTTP, and the second one is an HTTPS connection. Now, you'd think you'd be able to click on these. You can't really do that. So I have it open up here in a second browser. And when you log in and you use the same username and password that you use for your normal Plex interface, this is the page that you come to. Now, the unsupported App Store is where you can install other really useful plugins. There's all kinds of different things. I won't go through that today, but this button here right underneath it, called Find Media, that's what really caught my attention when I looked into this into WebTools, looking for this particular functionality. And so you can see the list of the different shares that I have, and what you do is whichever area you're missing the files from, and mine happened to be that drive was all television shows, and it was some of the oldest things that I had that I didn't really update any longer. But regardless, I knew they were under the TV shows heading, so I clicked the TV show button here, and what it does is it starts going through. It'll go to the next page, and it'll start indexing immediately everything that is in the Plex database right now, and then it will actually go through and compare that with what is on the hard drives that it can find. So my particular hard drive, since it wasn't there and that file structure wasn't there any longer, when it's done, and depending on how much you have, that can take a while, it will output and give you a list right below it. It actually kind of shows up down here, and what that will do is give you a list, and it's got several different sections. It'll give you other hard drives if you've moved files around and haven't quite updated things yet. It'll show them up saying, hey, this is where this used to be, and then maybe if you refresh the database, do the scan files for your television shows or movies, whatever it is, it'll probably find it and set it up correctly. But what's more important here is the output of that particular command. It'll let you download it as a text file. And for mine, I knew that the drive inside of the Windows virtual machine was the M drive. So then I knew, going through that text file, that anything with an M drive and a backslash, the directory structure, would be a television show that I got to go find all the originals for. And so that made it a whole lot easier to do disaster recovery. I put in another drive, and I had some other space on some other larger hard drives, and I'm able to go now and clean up and re-add all of those files that were missing. So that's been a really handy feature. And it's built right into the WebTools. So if you find that functionality useful, this is an easy way to go do it if you happen to have a failure like I did. So if you like this video, or it is useful information to you, go ahead and like it and hit the subscribe button like you do with some more subscribers. I think I'm up to a grand total of 38 right now, so working my way towards that first 100. So y'all have a good one.